neighboring towns and really appreciate you being here this evening. As people find their seats, we do not have microphones, and I hope that's going to be okay. The acoustics seem very great in this building. A beautiful building. I want to thank the Unitarian Universalist Church for allowing us to use the space. I do have to make a disclaimer, as we did it in the church we used up in Bangor. Just because we're having the event here does not mean we've got the UU's endorsement of Maine. So it is a better deal for Maine. I do need to say that up front. And it's great to be here this evening. I do want to, just before we get started, to make sure that we recognize all the elected officials in the room for a couple different reasons. You probably know who your elected official is, but I want to make sure you know that they're in the room, how to get a hold of them, how to harass them, and make sure that they are making the decisions that you think best reflect your values and your town. So I don't even know where to start because there are a number of them here. I guess I'll start with Senator Brzezowski. If he could find his way, there he is. The Senator reminded me that this is his district, whether it's the House or the Senate, so it's great to be here with you this evening and many of you people.
Well, we in Brunswick welcome you and appreciate you coming out.
Thank you, Stan. Then we have Denise Beckler from Topsom, right there. We have Jay McCray from Hartswell down front. We have Ralph Tucker from Brunswick. Kathy Brain, Senator Brain from Falmouth. I have a great privilege of serving with two remarkable leaders that are on the leadership team. They are both here tonight, so we have the full House Democratic leadership team here in Brunswick this evening. Jeff Gabe and Sarah Gideon, Justin Scouty, and Sarah is just up the road from Freeport. We have Andrew McLean, who was at the Scarborough event last week. He is the chairman of the Transportation Committee. Transportation came up a lot last week. He is from the town of Gorham, so thank you, Andrew, for being here. I feel like, well, there he is. I was going to say I saw him earlier today. I can't not say something about former Speaker Richardson. We had a Welcome Back Day today at the state legislature. It's a long-standing tradition of welcoming former members back. It was great to reminisce with Speaker Richardson in the Speaker's office today. Those stories I will not share with you. It's really great to have you here this evening, and thank you for being here. So we know that there are a number of local elected officials here this evening. You guys are on the front lines, whether you're on the school board or the town council. You know what is at stake for your towns, for your kids. Thank you for being here. I talked to many of you prior to this event, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come to hear an alternative, one that we think better reflects how to grow our economy, how to invest in our economy, how to invest in our workers and our kids. Senate Leader Justin Alfond is going to walk through the details of that plan. I'm going to wrap up, and then we're going to open it up to questions and answers, which is always my favorite part of the evening. But before we do that, a little bit about myself. I live in North Berwick, a small community in York County with my wife, Laura. We've been married about 15 years. We have 3 kids. My oldest is Elena. She's 10 years old. She's in the 4th grade. My middle is Lucas. He's 8 years old. He's in the 2nd grade. My youngest is Naomi. She's in kindergarten. We have 2 pigs, 7 chickens, 3 fish, 2 goats on the way, so it is a full household. We love living in the farms and the forest land and North Berwick. It really is our sanctuary away from work. It has been great to raise a family there. North Berwick has a lot of the characteristics, just smaller, of Brunswick and a lot of the great communities across the state. I'm the youngest of 7 kids. My mother is a retired school teacher. My father is a retired chaplain in the United States Air Force. And one thing that they often reminded us of growing up in a large family is when you work together and you pull together, we all do better. And those are the values and principles that Justin and myself brought to the table in developing this Better Deal for Maine plan. So there is a lot at stake. The governor has proposed a budget that does a lot of things that we think hurt our economy, hurt the fundamental things that grow our economy. Maine is at a crossroads. Our economy is lagging behind. It's lagging behind the region. It's lagging behind the country. Our tax system is rigged for those at the top. And the governor has proposed a budget that we think makes it worse. And Democrats have a different vision. A better deal for Maine. And a better deal for Maine grows the economy from the middle out. It rejects the failed trickle-down economics that have failed us time and time again. Our plan is about middle-class economics. We're going to talk about what that means for our state. The Better Deal for Maine plan does three very simple but very significant things. It prioritizes a middle-class tax cut. It provides property tax relief for every Maine homeowner. And it provides investments in our kids, in our workers, in our communities. Those are the three hallmarks of our Better Deal for Maine plan. As I said, Senator Alfond is going to walk us through the details of those plans, and then we're going to open it up for questions and answers. So, no further ado, Senator Alfond.
It is a real pleasure to work with the Speaker. We've been working very hard for the last 4 years, and we will continue working hard for Maine people. Like the Speaker said, there are three fundamental things that we knew we needed to put out as a counter-proposal, a credible counter-proposal to the governor's budget. And those are a very targeted tax cut for middle-class Mainers, a property tax relief for every homeowner across the state, and making sure that we make critical strategic investments in our future. We know the rest of New England is, we know the rest of the country is, and we have to be making those investments too. So I'm going to get right to it so that we can ensure that we have a lot of time for Q&A. We've held 2 of these events, and the Q&A is definitely the best part so we can really dig into the details. So, very, very quickly, we said this, we'll say it a different way. We want to put more money into working class people here in the state of Maine, and we want to invest in our future. We know it is critical, and we are at a crossroads. So who does benefit under the Better Deal plan? So we really felt, after we saw what the governor was doing, and just to give you a very quick snapshot, he put out a big budget. A budget that's $165 million more than the previous 2-year budget. In that budget, he's really moving a lot of things around our tax code. It's tax reform, it really is. And there are parts of it that we really thought were smart. Expanding the base of sales taxes so we can really push as much of our taxes to non-residents. That's something that's very smart. But as we unpacked the governor's budget, we looked at his income taxes. And this is a focal point that he talked about during the campaign, and he rolled it out in the 2-year budget. In the 2-year budget, his income taxes basically said, look, we believe in trickle-down economics. We're going to push the top marginal rate from 7.95 to 5.75 over 4 years, and we're going to push as much of that money to the top 10%. Who is the top 10% in Maine? It's someone that's earning over $134,000 as an individual, or you double it as a couple. He put 50% of all the income tax cuts in that top 10%. We, as Democrats, came together and said that's not something that we believe grows Maine's economy. We said we would rather focus our tax cuts for middle-class Mainers. We want to make sure that under the Better Deal, that 98% of the income tax relief goes to the bottom 95%. When you really target your tax cuts to the bottom 95%, you then can make very, very big strategic investments, which I'm going to talk about. How much money can you make in these strategic investments? The governor was basically pushing $150 million a year just in the top 10% of Maine earners. That, if you take that money and you strategically put it in other places, this is where you get the fundamental aspects and ingredients of the Better Deal. So, first, we wanted to make sure that the Better Deal was very, very strong for young families and seniors. How are we going to do that? Well, a cornerstone of what we are doing is looking at property tax relief. I don't know about you all, but when I go and talk to any Mainer, whether it's here in Brunswick, in Portland, Waterville, Dexter, where I grew up, they talk about property taxes that keep getting higher year after year. We said, under our plan, we have to address it. It's something that everyone talks about. And so we're putting out $120 million every year in property tax relief. How are we doing that? First, homestead exemption. Right now, across the state, everyone gets $10,000 if you're a homeowner. Under the governor's plan, he was going to eliminate that for anyone under 65. And if you're over 65, he was going to put it to $20,000. Well, he had part of it right, the $20,000. The part that we could not accept, that we do not accept, is basically discriminating against a younger, anyone over 65. See how kind I have? Anyone over 65 is younger. We want to make homestead exemption for everyone who owned a home, regardless of age. So we bumped that up to $20,000 for every homeowner across the state. That is $30 million per year to add up to, obviously, 60 over the biennium. We also looked at the property tax fairness credit. The governor and Democrats and Republicans, we've all tried very, very hard to get the old circuit breaker, I'm sure many people remember that, the circuit breaker back to its full impact. And where we are right now is not even close to where we used to be. So under the governor's proposal, we just adopted. We were going to move it to $1,000 or $1,500, and that's you have to be eligible for your income, and then you can have up to $1,500 if you're 65 or older. So again, we adopted the property tax fairness credit for another $60 million over the biennium. So in our plan, $120 million goes out for direct property tax relief, which we know, I think, will help every Mainer, no doubt, and it's something that's very important. What does that mean to you in Brunswick? Well, I just happened to check the mill rate in Brunswick, and I believe it's just over 27 mills per thousand. I can tell you, under this plan, again, with just going up to $20,000 in homestead, you would be getting around $540 back if you lived in Brunswick, Maine, in your property taxes. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's a really good idea. Again, under the governor's idea, you know, you're just over 65, going to get $20,000. If you're under 65, nothing. And so we felt we had to be smarter, more strategic with property taxes. For students and workers, what we felt, obviously, is that this is important. It's our investments in our future. And in the governor's plan, he put some money into general purpose aid for K through 12. But what he didn't really do is really think about the whole continuum of pre-K through college. And so we've made some investments in community colleges of $6 million. But in this better deal, we said we wanted to put $20 million more into K through 12. And why did we do that? Because we know your local mill rate, which is already very high here in Brunswick, is going to go higher regardless if we did this or not. Because the cost of education is growing. Everything in education, whether it's heat, whether it's health insurance, all the ingredients that drive costs are going up. And so we knew that we had to invest in education. I have some other numbers for GPA, which I think are important. So again, under the better deal, because of our $20 million per year, Brunswick would be getting an extra $350,000 under the better deal. In Freeport, it'd be $328,000 in the next 2 years that the better deal will be investing in Freeport. Bowdenham, $218,000 every year, both years. Topsom, $216,000. Pittsburgh, $220,000. Woolwich, $220,000. Arousek, which I finally can say after 6+ years, $220,000. Harpswell, $217,000, and West Bath, $46,000. These are real dollars that we'd be investing in education that we think is critical to our future and to our kids' future and to our economic future. So the big challenge that the governor has had with state budgets for the 4+ years is something called revenue sharing. How many people have heard of revenue sharing? The governor has made it a very well-known program. Well, under the governor's plan, he fully eliminates revenue sharing in his 2-year budget. We felt this is not the partnership that we know is critical. I mean, all the dollars are raised in the local communities, sent to the state, and we're supposed to send you back 5%. Under the governor's plan, again, it's eliminated. What we did is we said, we are going to invest $80 million per year in revenue sharing. Why? Because we know that public safety, roads, all of the things that you do with fire and police, they're critical. And we know that that investment is really, really smart. So again, I have just a couple numbers for you. Again, the governor would zero it out, so you would get 0 in revenue sharing in the second year. In our plan, both years you'd be getting $1.3 million in Brunswick. In Freeport, $445,000. Bowdenham, $160,000. Topsail, $582,000. Again, this is in comparison to 0, right? So these are big, big numbers. Bath, $692,000. Georgetown, $23,000. Phippsburg, $101,000. Woolwich, $126,000. Arousek, $12,000. Hartswell, $83,000. West Bath, $107,000. I mean, these are real dollars that the better deal is investing in your communities, because we know that partnership is critical in order to grow our economy. It's critical to make sure that we have a place that people feel good about, and people feel when they're looking at communities to, maybe move to, they know that they've got a strong community. So this is just a little thing that we feel as Democrats is really important, that whatever we put out, we could fully pay for. So in the next 2 years, really better deal, we can fully pay for everything that I've just talked about. $120 million in direct property tax relief, $80 million per year in revenue sharing, $20 million in K-12 education, and we fully pay for it. In comparison, the governor has rolled out a 4-year plan, and we know that in that 4th year, he has a hole, a gigantic hole. It's a $300 million hole, and he has no idea how we are going to pay for it. We think that's fiscally irresponsible. The only thing that he's given us was in, I think, his a news conference where he said, you know what, I've got a way to pay for some things that I need to with my budget. We just can take $250 million out of education. Well, I don't think that's a way to grow our future. I don't think that's a way to invest in our kids. And so, under the governor's plan, it is a massive fiscally irresponsible plan, something that we did not want to participate in. Someone might say, well, how do you pay for all this? Again, the 2 ways that we pay for it are, 1, when you don't concentrate all of your income tax relief, or at least 50%, to the top 10%, you have a lot of money to move around. Like I said, it's $150 million per year that it's costing the governor to get so much money to Maine's wealthiest. Well, we take a lot of that money and we make these strategic investments in property tax relief, revenue sharing, K-12. The other piece is that we export a lot of our taxes to non-residents. We have 30 million people that come into our state. We, unlike the governor, we don't raise the sales tax to 6.5%. We keep it at 5.5%. But we adopt his expansion of the sales tax base. And we think it's smart, it's strategic. Yes, there are things in there we all don't like. But we just adopted it in full, saying, you know what, this is too golden of an opportunity not to modernize our sales tax, because I think it was now U.S. Senator King who said that Maine is a very cheap date. And we are. We have 30 million people that come into our state. They use all our services, our infrastructure, and really pay very little for it. So we believe that the expansion is important. So again, this is very repetitive, but our communications people tell us we need to repeat. So I'm told. Thank you, Jody. So $120 million in direct property tax relief, $80 million in revenue sharing, again, to pay for public services, public works, local fire, police, and $20 million in K-12 education. Again, this is per year, and we paid for it by just taking the massive tax cuts that he was giving to the top 10% and really strategically investing in it here. Again, so if you are sitting there and you're saying, okay, well, what is middle class? We had a great question last time. What is middle class? We believe our middle class is right around $47,000. That's $47,000 for a family with 2 kids. You'd be getting an average of $191 in comparison to $24 right now with Governor LePage's plan. So, I mean, and again, he doesn't account for all to the massive shift in taxes because of the property taxes, we know when revenue sharing goes away, two things are going to happen. Either your property taxes are going to go up, or you're going to have to cut services. So again, 98% of our income tax relief goes to the bottom 95%. And again, and we can give you, and the speaker is will run through some examples, other examples, but again, if you're earning around $47,000, $191 in tax cuts. So again, when we talk about direct property tax relief, under the property tax fairness credit, you'd be eligible up to $1,500 if you're income eligible, $1,000 max if you're not income eligible, and then $300 around your property taxes, again, because of homestead exemption. Again, in Brunswick, it's more like 540. So you can take a big tax and go 540 here. And whatever your mill rate is, all you would have to do is times it essentially by 2. So if your mill rate was like Portland, 20 mills per thousand, it'd be 400. If your mill rate was 15, it'd be 300. And that's how we got this, because the average statewide calculation is around 15 mills per thousand. I'm going to pass it over to the speaker. I look forward to questions, and thank you so much for having us here tonight.
Several examples of what this means for a family of 4, for a single mom with 1 kid, for a retired couple. We're going to look at how our plan stacks up, but I think it's really important to understand that we're coming to this and approaching this in a way that is fundamentally different than the governor. We are thinking about how to grow our economy. And again, when you invest in middle-class families and you put more money literally in their pockets, they are going to spend it immediately. We talked last week in Scarborough about a room full of folks that would probably know how to spend that additional money in 30 to 60 days to get that money right back into our economy. So our plan is about middle-class economics. The governor's plan is about trickle-down economics. And we know what that has done to other states around this country. I did print off, and I'll probably reference it later, what is happening in Kansas right now. There was an article in the Portland Press Herald this morning about some of the impact of what is happening in Kansas because they did something very similar to what the governor has proposed. Currently, right now, they are closing schools early because of their huge shortfall. These are real consequences. When you look at Louisiana and Governor Jindal and what happened there, very similar plan that the governor is pushing. They have cut higher education by 40%. So we feel like this is really a struggle between middle-class economics and trickle-down economics. And when you put more money in the pockets of working-class families, they're going to spend it. It's going to be better for our economy. It's going to be better for those businesses. It's going to be better for those families. It's going to be better for all of us. So we have 3 examples here. I'm going to go over here. You guys probably can't see these. And I guess before I go there, the middle-class tax cut. Again, 50% of the governor's tax cut benefit goes to the top 10%. Property tax relief. We have the privilege of knocking on many of your doors, not just myself here in Brunswick, but those that represent you, and talking to you about what is it like in your life, how can we make it better, and can we get your vote to get back to the State House and work on your behalf. Time and time and time again. I've done it 4 times, 4 election cycles, and every single time it's about property taxes. Can you please help me out with my property taxes? The heartbreaking stories are those of a senior on a fixed income, that they see their property taxes go up every single year on a fixed income. They don't have anywhere else to get the money. That's what's driving us to develop a plan that really prioritizes the tax cut for the middle class, property tax relief, and making sure we're investing in communities like Brunswick and the surrounding ones that make Brunswick so great. And lower sales tax rate. We haven't said this yet. The governor has proposed sales tax rate from going to 5.5% to 6.5%. In our plan, it keeps it at the same rate of 5.5%, which I think is an important distinction as well. So, several different examples. If you're married with 2 children, have an annual income of about $100,000 a year between the 2 of you, working parents, your total tax reduction is going to be over $600. If you're a single mom with 1 kid with an annual income of about $30,000, the total tax reduction is going to be about $177. And if you're a retired couple, over the age of 65, you have an annual investment about $10,000 a year, and Social Security is about $30,000 a year, you're going to see a closer to $200 tax reduction. We thought it was important to kind of try to represent and visualize the different scenarios and how it might impact your life. So these are 3 scenarios. Senator Alfond did a good job of outlining what it would mean for Brunswick. And I believe we have a Brunswick slide. Again, it says Scarborough. These are Brunswick numbers, right, Sean? So again, to recap, $350,000 more each year in public education for Brunswick, $1.3 million in revenue sharing to the town of Brunswick, and almost $550 in property tax relief. That is you paying your property tax bill, $550 reduced on your property tax bill. So we know and believe that that's how you grow our economy. You invest in the right places. The governor started a very important conversation in our state. Our tax system is rigged for those at the top. We have an opportunity to do something about it. We brought this plan forward because we were compelled not just to disagree with what the governor has put forward. We didn't think that was overly constructive. We wanted to make sure that we were bringing forward a plan that represented our values and, again, how we thought the economy would best grow. So with that, I think we are going to go ahead and open it up to questions and answers. We don't have microphones, so this is going to be a little bit of popcorn exercise, I think. And I think we'll just try to manage that. I do want to just, before we open it up, I don't think I need to remind this crowd, but to keep it civil, to keep it brief, there are a lot of people here. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to ask their questions. So with that, we'll open it up to the first question.
So the question is about sales tax. So right now we're at 5.5, and under the better deal, we're going to keep it at 5.5. And the reason we believe that we should stay at 5.5 is we know that sales taxes are one of the most regressive taxes to bring in revenue. Why? Because if you're on a fixed income, if you only are earning $20,000, all the basic necessities of life, you're going to keep purchasing, and you're paying 5.5%. But we do know that we have 30 million non-residents that come into our state. So what we're doing is we're keeping it at 5.5, and we're expanding the sales base. The governor came out with this plan, and he expanded the sales base with over 200 more activities. And those 200 more activities bring in millions, tens of millions of dollars. He additionally, because he needed so much money to give to the top 10%, had to figure out how. And what he did is he took the sales tax rate from 5.5 to 6.5, and he expanded the base. We felt that was too regressive, something that we could not support. And there's one other piece to this, is that in the governor's plan, because he knew that this was very, well, I don't know if he knew it, but advisors told him that you needed to come out with something similar to the property tax fairness credit. And he came out with this sales tax fairness credit. We also adopted that, which would mean you don't have to collect any receipts, but depending on your income, you would get up to $500 back from the state government on your purchases of all your yearly activity because of the increase in sales taxes that you're paying. So those two pieces we think are fundamental. A, we know we have to grow the sales tax base, but we felt that we should stay at right at 5.5%.
Talk back.
Having some experience with this before on taxation, give us some idea of the expansion. Tell us what services are different tax laws working for, and are you expecting the same fight for haircuts and the rest of it?
So I can start by saying haircuts are not in the plan. I think we'll just learn from last time, or they won't be. Car mechanic repairs, I mean, those are some lessons that we learned in the last debate. We essentially adopted the governor's proposal. We don't have a list of what those are, but we can certainly afterwards get some emails and shoot off some emails if that is something that is important to you. But it's one of those things where when we were developing our plan, once you start pulling a couple things, then it kind of all falls apart. So we thought, again, instead of out of hand rejecting the governor's proposal, we're going to starting point, and go from there. So that is, it's identical to what the governor has proposed in terms of the broadening of the sales tax. And I should, Jennifer DeChan, who represents Bath, just walked in afterwards. I want to make sure that folks know Jennifer and see where she is. She's doing a great job.
Except for just noticing people, I noticed that former Senator Eloise Vitale is in the back of the room.
Since we're on a roll, I see Representative Graham, front row here as well. So it's good to see you. Yes, in the back.
One of the hallmarks of the governor's budget is taxing large nonprofit organizations, entities, hospital or college, to presume down out of plant for the elderly. Could you talk a little bit about where the Democratic budget stands on that key feature?
Yeah, we thought that it was critically important to take that off the table immediately. So in our plan, we take taxing nonprofits immediately off the table. It is not part of that plan. The second thing I'll say about that is when you look at the state and how that would impact different communities, it really left rural Maine behind in a really devastating way. There's no ability to make up for the loss of that tax base. It was really a huge shift in burden onto our rural community. So for several reasons, with that being the primary one, we said that can't happen. So in our plan, we took it off the table. Ricky. The glasses are green. Yes, you.
Okay. I just wanted to make a clarification. The Brunswick mill rate is $27.40 per thousand, but it's a 70% valuation, so we are effectively at $19 and change. Okay? Second thing I wanted to ask you, is it the case that you will be eliminating the mortgage interest deduction for homes? And that certainly is one of the wealth builders for middle class.
So the question...
I'm also a realtor, full disclosure.
Well, thank you for disclosing, kind of, obviously this is something we've heard, not just from realtors, but when you look at tax reform, right? I mean, just the fundamental kind of equation in tax reform is not everyone is going to come out a winner. And not everyone's going to be happy. You have to make choices. And the governor made choices, and he came out with this 2-year budget. And one of his major choices was really making sure that the top 10% got huge, huge cuts in their income taxes. Our choice was around middle class. And I would say that even though we're eliminating something that's very popular, both for homeowners and realtors, your overall tax bill, and that's what we really thought about a lot when we were putting this together, not just income, not just property, not just sales, but your overall tax burden will be better under our plan. And it's not just me saying that. Maine Revenue Service has made sure that our numbers work. It's not just that. It's, economic institutes like MECEP and national ones have scored our plan, and under any scenario, other than if you're the top 5%. Okay, so I told you if you make over $134,000, you're in the top 10%. So now you even have to go higher. I think it's closer to about $180,000 as an individual, or $360,000 as a couple. If you're earning that top 5%, all you're going to do under this plan is keep paying your 7.95. That's our idea. We're not asking you to pay more in your income. We're just saying pay as you're doing right now. We're also asking corporations to pay their fair share. And we're keeping that rate the same. And we're also trying to move as much of the tax burden out of state to the 30 million non-residents. Those are the cornerstones of our plan. And you're right. I mean, for you, as you look at your own individual kind of situation, you might never love our plan. You might not, but if you don't love our plan, you're going to hate the governor's plan. That's what I'm going to tell you right now.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Alfond, I thank you both for being here. And I also want to thank our local representatives for being here. We in this area are blessed to have legislators the caliber that we have in the Brunswick, Thompson, Harpswell area.
You're right.
They represent us well. But I represent the veterans, and I haven't heard one word about veterans. We have 150,000 veterans in this state. Everyone standing around me is a retired veteran. There's a bill in the legislature now to exempt our tax, our income tax in the state. We pay income tax to the federal government. So I'm hoping that you people and our people will vote to give us a tax break.
Go ahead.
Okay. The other thing is, the other day, I heard Senator Alfond speak before the Senate. His testimony was passionate and deserved to be heard in the state of Maine. Not only is he talking about helping kids and families stay in the state of Maine, but we have another program with the National Guard. We want the National Guard to stay in Maine with their kids. So let's do something for them. We want military retirees and their kids to come back to Maine. We got kids 38 years old retiring from the military. They have job skills. They can come back to Maine and help us. As Senator Alfond said, we're running out of young people. Look around. So what I'm saying is, let's get together. The governor, I agree with some of the things he's doing also. But you people you're so close.